Hello students, in previous modules we have learnt about the quantities of the solid waste generated, and we have also learnt about the traditional methods of solid waste disposal. To make a robust and sustainable solid waste management plan, we must know the composition of the solid waste, because once we know the composition of solid waste, only then we can decide that what approach or what method or what technique can be used for the treatment and disposal of the solid waste. So, in this module we shall be discussing about the composition of solid waste. The learning objectives of this module are to understand various constituents of the municipality solid waste, to gain knowledge about waste generation, to understand the factors that influence waste composition, and finally, we will try to understand about the status of municipality solid waste composition in India. Just to revise, what are solid waste? Solid waste meaning is different to different countries. Solid waste is commonly connoted as municipality solid waste, many a times it is simply called as MSW. According to United States Environment Protection Agency, the term solid waste refers to garbage, refuse or rubbish. In the United Kingdom, solid waste is commonly known as refuse or rubbish and is defined as waste from households as well as other waste, which because of its nature and composition is similar to waste from household. Solid waste can be categorized into 4 major categories, and these categories of solid waste are municipality solid waste, hazardous solid waste, biomedical solid waste and radioactive solid waste. According to Ministry of Environment, Forest and Climate Change, Government of India, the term municipality solid waste refers to waste generated from commercial and residential areas. Municipality solid waste may be solid or semi-solid, but excluding industrial hazardous waste, but including treated biomedical waste. In India, depending upon the source, MSW or municipality solid waste is further categorized into 3 types, and these 3 types of MSW are household waste, which arise from domestic areas, from individual houses. Second is commercial waste. These commercial waste arise from individually large sources of MSW like hotels, office buildings, schools, universities, etc. Municipal services waste is the third category, and that arise mainly from the areas like streets, parks, etc. Composition of solid waste. Let me tell you, because solid waste is generated from so many sources and this is heterogeneous in nature, as well as the nature of solid waste or the composition of solid waste varies from season to season, locality to locality, nation to nation. So, it is really very difficult to give a composition to the solid waste, but efforts have been made by different agencies to give some empirical composition of the solid waste. Absolute composition of solid waste cannot be given. So, municipality solid waste can be broadly classified into 2 classes based upon the nature and its composition, and these classes are organic waste and inorganic waste. There is third category also, that is inerts. The World Bank report segregates this MSW base on its composition and source, as most of the solid waste fall under these categories. Most often inert materials like construction debris and this street sweeping dirt or dust also get mixed with up MSW. This figure shows the types of waste. The type of waste include organics, paper, plastic, glass, metals and other constituents that may be these debris, stones or inert materials. This table shows the constituents of the different components of the solid waste and their sources. Let me discuss them one by one. First of all, let me take organic. The sources of organic are food scrap, yard waste including leaves, grasses, etc. Then wood waste and process residues. Then paper, the sources of paper are paper scraps, cardboards, newspapers, magazines, bags, boxes, wrapping paper, telephone directories, shredded paper. Paper is generally not classified as organic. Then another type of waste is plastic. The sources of plastic are plastic bottles, then packaging materials, plastic based containers, plastic bags, plastic cups, etc. The another type is glass. The sources of glass waste are different glass bottles, broken glassware, then light valves and colored glass. The sources of metal are metal cans, foils, tins, non-hazardous aerosol cans, railings, bicycles or other metal appliances. The sources of other wastes are textiles, leather, rubber, e-waste, appliances, ash and other inert materials. This table shows the composition of global solid waste. According to World Bank 2014, the solid waste consists of organic waste, paper, plastic, glass, metal and other which we have discussed just now. Organic fraction in the global solid waste is approximately 46%. Paper fraction in the global solid waste is about 17%. Plastic fraction is about 10%. Glass fraction is about 5%. Metal fraction is about 4% and others as we have discussed include so many things. Its fraction in the global solid waste is about 18%. The rate of waste generation is an indicator of socio-economic development of a region. Waste generation. The per capita waste generation refers to the amount of waste generated by one person in one day in a country. So, the equation is given here and the equation is waste generation is equal to the amount of waste generated divided by per capita multiplied by day. And the unit of this is kilogram per capita per day. This waste generation is affected by the economic ability and hence it is strongly correlated to the GDP of any country. This slide shows the average waste generation rates in different countries. In India, the average waste generation rate is 0.37 kilogram per capita per day. In China, the waste generation rate is 0.7 kilogram per capita per day, whereas in United States, the waste generation rate is average waste generation rate is 2 kilogram per capita per day. In India, the per capita waste generation is increasing at the rate of 1.3% per year. Cities in the southern states of India, they generate highest amount of waste of 0.57 kilogram per capita per day, whereas cities in the western states of India, they generate least amount of waste, that is 0.44 kilogram per capita per day. As we have discussed that per capita waste generation is strongly correlated with the GDP, that is gross domestic product of a country. This table shows the per capita urban MSW generation in different income level countries. In low income countries, the waste generation in 1999 was 0.5 to 0.9 kilogram per capita per day, and in middle income countries this was 0.52 to 1.1 kilogram per capita per day, whereas in high income countries this was 1.1 to 5.07 kilogram per day. Same study was, the projection have been made for these countries for 2025, and the data shows that the waste generation will increase in low income groups as well as in middle income countries, but in high income groups this will either stabilize or will be lesser in 2025 as compared to the 1995. So, from this table it is clearly evident that more waste is generated in those countries where the income is high, and less waste is generated in those countries where the income is lesser, and the same trend is going to exist in future also. So, based upon this data given in this table, we can say that waste generation rate is directly proportional to the income of the residents of a particular country, and the waste generation increases with the increase in GDP of any country. We should know that which factors influence the composition of solid waste. There are several factors, and let me discuss them one by one. First factor is the economic development. The composition of waste differs from low income to high income countries, as we have discussed just now. Paper and other recyclable materials are typically more in high income areas or countries as compared to low income areas or countries. Organic fraction is high in low income countries than high income countries. Paper, glass and metal are also high in high income countries as compared to low income countries. This table shows the composition of different constituents of the solid waste in different countries. In the organic column, you will find that as the income level of the people of a country increases, the organic fraction decreases. Similarly, as the income increases, paper percentage in the solid waste increases. Plastic percentage also increases with the increase in income. Glass, metal also increases with the increase in income. Second factor that influence the composition of solid waste is geographical location. The influence of geographical location is related to climate. Climate influences the amount of waste generation, for example, yard waste. The warmer southern areas where the growing season is considerably longer as compared to the northern areas, yard wastes are collected in considerably large quantities and over a longer period of time. Another factor that influence the composition of solid waste is seasons. Seasons influences the composition of certain specific types of solid waste. For example, the growing season of vegetables and fruits affect the quantities of food waste. Another factor is cultural norms. The waste composition varies from rural and urban settlements, as well as this will depend upon the food habits also. Different cultures may have different food habits. Another factor is public attitude. Education and attitude of people influence the waste composition. For example, reusing materials, use of biodegradable materials, their composition from those are not using this approach will be different. Another important factor is legislation. Strict laws and regulations can also alter or can also impact the waste composition. Let me have a look on the composition and state of municipality solid waste in India. In India, according to 2011 census, nearly 32% of the population of the country is residing in urban areas, means the rapid urbanization in India is taking place. And this rapid urbanization is putting immense demand on its resources, infrastructure and energy requirements. Adding to this is the rapidly growing volume of municipality solid waste. And this growing quantities of solid waste are posing another serious challenge. There is a significant or very serious gap in the availability of different technologies that can be used for the treatment and disposal of solid waste. Means lesser technologies or lesser facilities are available for the proper disposal of the municipality solid waste. Let me have a look on the composition of municipality solid waste in urban India. As I told earlier, it is really very difficult to give a composition to the solid waste. So, the organic fraction in the Indian solid waste is approximately 51%. Recyclable materials in the Indian MSW are about 17.5% and inert wastes are approximately 31%. The moisture content of urban MSW in India is about 47% and the average calorific value of urban MSW is about 1745 kilocalories per kilogram. The knowledge of this calorific value is very, very important, because based upon this we can decide whether some thermal treatment of this waste can be done or not, and if the thermal treatment of the waste is done, that will be self-sustaining or we have to provide extra energy for that. In India, presently there is no proper system for the management of urban municipality solid waste. As I told earlier, some technologies are available, no doubt about it, but still there is a gap because urbanization is increasing, economic status of people is going better and better, and because of that the quantities of the solid waste generation is increasing, but the facilities that are required for the proper management of this solid waste are not increasing at that rate at which they are required. So, firstly, there is lack of storage and segregation of waste at source, and the reason for that is that people lack awareness that if they are mixing the all waste, that is creating problem, because once waste is segregated, its management is very, very easy. In addition to that, because of lesser awareness or lack of awareness, people do not participate in different programs that are started or that are undertaken for the management of municipality solid waste. Secondly, there is no proper public system of waste collection from the primary sources, although efforts have been made in different cities. And so, municipal sanitation workers collect the waste thrown in streets and public open spaces on an irregular basis, but in last decade you might have seen that some organized sector has been developed by different urban local bodies for the collection of solid waste. But till date, most emphasis of these urban local bodies is on the collection of solid waste and its transportation to some dump site or so called landfill sites. Very little attention has been paid on the waste minimization, waste hierarchy, waste audit, etc. These things you are going to learn in the next modules. Municipality solid waste generation in India. Municipality solid waste generation is directly linked to the population of the area or a particular city. Therefore, bigger cities will generate more waste and smaller cities will generate lesser waste. The metropolitan areas of Calcutta generate the largest amount of MSW, that is about 11,520 tons per day among all the Indian cities. So, the maximum solid waste is generated in Kolkata. Among the 4 geographical regions in India, Northern India generate the highest amount of MSW, that is 40,500 tons per day, that is approximately 30% of all MSW generated in India, whereas Eastern India that generate least amount region wise of MSW, that constitute about 17% of MSW generated in India. This pie diagram shows the share of states and union territories in the urban MSW generated in India. In this pie diagram, you will find that about 17% of the total urban MSW is generated in Maharashtra state, followed by West Bengal. In West Bengal, about 12% of the total urban MSW generated in India is generated. Then in Uttar Pradesh, about 10% of the urban MSW is generated, and about 9% is generated in the Tamil Nadu, about 8.8% in Andhra Pradesh. So, among union territories, maximum amount of the solid waste, this urban MSW is generated in by this Delhi, and at second number is Chandigarh. This table shows the major constituents of the urban MSW in India. So, in the first column its components are given, in the second column its materials or constituents are given. Compostable component of Indian MSW include food waste, landscape waste and tree trimmings or lawn trimmings, etc. Recyclables mainly include paper, cardboard, plastics, glass and metals, and inerts in Indian MSW include stones and silt, bones and other inorganic materials. This table shows the composition of municipality solid waste in India and regional variations. From this table, you will find that the percentage of compostable materials or components in the Indian waste are in the range of 50 to 53%, whereas the recyclables vary in different regions from 16% to about 21.5%. Inerts materials in Indian solid waste are in the range of some 28.15% to 32.82%, and the moisture content is also variable in different regions, and it varies from 46 to 51%, and similarly the calorific value is also different in different regions. This calorific value varies from 1500 kilocalories to 2300 or 50 kilocalories per kilogram of the waste. The overall the average calorific value of the Indian municipality solid waste is 1751 kilocalories per kilogram, that we have studied earlier also. This histogram shows the change in composition of MSW with time in India. Basically, the variations with time are shown of compostables, recyclables and inerts. So, from this histogram you will find that since 1973 to 2005, the percentage of compostable materials is increasing, because as the GDP of the country is increasing, the purchasing power of the people is increasing. That is why this percentage of compostable materials is increasing, as well as the percentage of recyclables has also increased with the time. And here you will find that there was a significant increase from 1973 to 1995, but now since 1995 to 2005 it is somewhat stabilized. And the third component, that is inerts, you will find the percentage of inerts in the Indian MSW is decreasing since 1973. So, to summarize this module, in this module we have learnt about the composition of global municipality solid waste. We have learnt about different factors that influence the composition of municipality solid waste. We also learnt about the waste generation rates at different countries, and from this we learnt that waste composition is directly influenced by the GDP of a country. In addition to that, we have also learnt about the municipality solid waste composition in India, and we have also learnt that there are regional variations in the composition of Indian municipality solid waste. Finally, we also studied that how the percentage or the content of compostables, recyclables or inerts has increased or decreased with time. Thank you.